So let's first bring up how I voted. I voted Travis Hunter number 1, Ashton Jeanty from Boise State number 2, and Shedeur Sanders number 3. So that was my Heisman vote. That's how I cast it. That's how I see it. And let's talk about why. All right, let's start with Travis Hunter. It's really hard to be an All-American. Very hard. It's the elite of the elite. That's why they call them All-Americans. Trying to do that on both sides of the ball is basically impossible. It's unprecedented. To be an elite player on both sides of the ball is something that we've never seen before, ever in the history of college football. Travis Hunter is completely unprecedented in our sports history. So let's just start with that fact. That is an absolute fact. And I believe he is clearly the best football player in the sport. And it's not just me saying it. A guy who I think is maybe one of the best players in the sports history, college or pro, also believes that. Here's Charles Woodson on Fox NFL Kickoff.
Travis Hunter, a special player. There's no two ways about it.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did? It brought me great joy to see you up there on that stage last night because you are what the Heisman Trophy is all about. It's not about the best running back. It's not about the best receiver. It's not about the best quarterback. It is about the best player. And you were that. Coach Prime, shout out to you for allowing us to witness the greatness that it was this year with Travis Hunter, allowing him to play offense and defense. And you went out there each and every game and you made all the plays. So congratulations to you. We were all in awe watching you this year, playing the ball the way that you did. And we can't wait to see what you do next. So congratulations for being the 89th Heisman Trophy winner. And guess what, man? Those Heisman commercials with me and you on defense against all of those offensive players, we're going to have some fun, man. The Heisman house is going to be lit.
I love that. Charles Woodson. It is fascinating. I think there was a large pushback against Travis Hunter. And I just want to address that pushback before I get into him as a player, because again, he's totally unprecedented. There's no comp. There's no comp for Travis Hunter. He's clearly the best player in college football. And I think that bears out with a lot of the data. But just one thing on some of the pushback. He got a lot of that pushback because of who he plays for. And that's very apparent. There is a sector of people that just didn't want to see Deion Sanders and Colorado and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter have any success at all. There was a sector of people like that. And there were a lot of people that voted that way. I saw a few ballots, people posting this online, which is wild, posting that they didn't even have Travis Hunter in their top 3. That's absurd. And that reeks of bias. Reeks of it. That reeks of something other than actually watching this sport, covering this sport, and voting with some honor about what happened on the field. Because again, this guy did not have a comp. It's totally unprecedented what he did. You know, I look at what he did on just one side of the ball, like the offensive side of the football, and he is the Biletnikoff Award winner, best wide receiver in the sport, which in and of itself is insane. To reach those levels, to have a season like that. In the Power 4, he was second in catches, third in receiving yards, and first in touchdown catches. That's wild. That is wild. Just to have a season like that. I saw some people posting online like, oh, he's kind of like an above average wide receiver. Above average? He's the Biletnikoff winner. He's an All-American wide receiver. Oh, and by the way, he's also the Bednarik Award winner, the Paul Hornung Award winner, the Walter Camp Player of the Year, and the AP Player of the Year. So he's playing All-American football on both sides of the ball, which is bananas to me. It's absolutely bananas to me. 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble. That forced fumble ended up winning a game for them in that wild game that they were able to win against Baylor. There's only one comp for Travis Hunter, and he doesn't wear a football uniform, and that's Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani and what he's doing in baseball, being a premium pitcher and position player / hitter, is the only comp for what Travis Hunter is doing. This guy is absolutely incredible. His instincts are incredible. His athleticism is through the roof. His football IQ is through the roof. His playmaking ability is through the roof. He's the best player in college football. There was also some pushback on this fact that it was just his number of snaps. Well, one, no. And I just read off all the accolades that have nothing to do with his snaps. It's just what he was doing in domination on each side of the ball. And then you've got to take into consideration that he was doing all of that while playing 1,443 snaps of college football. That's crazy, everybody. Just letting you know, that is absolutely crazy. And I want to try to give you some sort of context about exactly how many snaps that is. Because, again, 1,443 snaps is a lot. But you might be asking myself, well, how do I know? Joel, give me some context for that. Well, okay. His 1,443 snaps are 387 more snaps than the next closest player in college football. 387. That's a lot. That's a lot. So the difference between number 1 in snaps and number 2 in snaps in college football, the entire sport, is 387 snaps. Now, if you were to go from number 2 and then subtract 387 snaps from that player, where do you get to? Well, I can tell you, you get to player 1,236. So you go from Travis Hunter to the number 2 player in college football in terms of total number of snaps. And then to take that same margin and place that margin below the number 2 player, you've got to get to player number 1,236. What? Okay, so it's not just volume, though, because he's going out there and playing All-American football on both sides. Biletnikoff, Horning, Walter Camp Player of the Year, now the Heisman Trophy. Again, in the Power 4, just his wide receiver numbers, 2nd in catches, 3rd in receiving yards, 1st in touchdown catches. He had 4 interceptions. He had 1 forced fumble. He only had 38 targets as a defensive back. I've heard people take swipes at his defensive numbers. It's well, he doesn't have defensive numbers. Exactly, because the ball doesn't go his way. What is the number one compliment any offense can pay a defensive back? Don't throw it at him. Which is exactly what happened. 38 targets. In terms of, starting corners in the country, that's 231st in the country. So he got no action. Why? Because every offensive coordinator and quarterback would go into that game and say, we're not throwing at number 12. Why? Because number 12 is the best corner in the country. Debatable with Will Johnson right in there. I think he was as good as any corner in the country. So why did I vote for Travis Hunter? Because Travis Hunter was doing things that we've never seen before in the history of the sport. We might not ever see it again. It wasn't just a historic season. It was a totally unprecedented season. He was doing things that, quite frankly, bend the mind. The number of snaps and the level at which he played in those snaps is something that I just don't think that we're ever going to see again. I really don't. And that brings me to my number 2 choice for Heisman. You see, because some people just hated Travis Hunter, so they left him off their ballot totally. I completely disagree with that strategy. I want to honor every great player in college football. Therefore, a clear number 2 for me was Ashton Jeanty, and it was actually pretty close. And I think it was pretty close for a couple of factors. So before I talk about Jeanty, I do want to talk about some of these outlying factors that I think made this race really interesting. It wasn't just the fact that we had this unicorn of a player in Travis Hunter. It was also the year that we had, because it was such a unique year in college football. Think about it this way. We didn't really have a star or a productive star on any of the big boys, the top 5 teams in the country, because normally that's where our Heisman Trophy winner comes from. Is the best running back, or namely the best quarterback on the best team. Well, Oregon had a great year, and Dylan Gabriel was very solid, but his numbers really didn't do anything when you would compare him to players like Cam Ward or Kyle McCord or Shedeur Sanders or some of these other quarterbacks around the country. And quite frankly, some of those quarterbacks just had too many losses that I mentioned. So you didn't get that quarterback push that you normally get with this trophy, which makes this year, 2024, I think incredibly unique. Very unique. The fact that Dillon Gabriel wasn't a real favorite at any point, never really got the momentum going on his side, opened it up for a lot of different players, including a hybrid unicorn like Travis Hunter and a Mountain West running back from Boise State that was doing remarkable things on the football field. I love watching Ashton Jeanty. Another factor that you have in all of this is the fact that I think Travis really kind of locked in this Heisman with about 3 weeks to go, which meant that for the last month, everyone was trying to find alternatives because, again, there was a sector and unfortunately a large sector of people that just didn't want Travis Hunter and they didn't want Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders, and they didn't want any part of that. So they looked for avenues to try to find an alternative, and Ashton Jeanty was that alternative because of the remarkable season that he was having. And then all of a sudden, it got very close late. I don't believe it should have gotten that close. Again, Travis is a unicorn. Ashton's just remarkable. Now, that doesn't take anything away from what Ashton Jeanty did. He was phenomenal this year. I love watching this guy play. There is, though, however, a difference between remarkable and unprecedented. There is a difference. And as remarkable as his season was, it wasn't Travis Hunter. And so you look at his season, it's like 344 carries. I actually love his volume. It shows me that he's willing to take those carries and can produce through a high volume of carries, which a lot of running backs can't do. Just south of 2,500 yards. Here's what I love most about him. I think that his combination of strength and balance make him very unique. His ability to produce through contact. Nobody had more yards after contact than Ashton Jeanty. He was remarkable at it. I love his vision. He's an elite back. He had a lot of catches last year, over 40 catches in a season. This year, not quite as many, partly because why expose him to more hits and touches when he's already getting 26 touches a game just in carries, right? So he would get a couple of more touches through the year, get him to about 28 touches a year. But man, what a player. I mean, I'm telling you, he is as good as any back out there. I think he's got a good chance to be a first-round running back in the NFL draft. Unfortunately for Jeanty, as is the case with every running back, it's so position-specific in terms of value, what teams actually need a running back, where are they going to value the running back position, that it's not like other positions where you can just say, yes, absolutely, he's going to be a first-round player. Now, do I think he could be the first running back taken? Yeah. I think he's got that type of ability because he's phenomenal. He's a remarkable player. I love watching Ashton Jeanty play. He is in a lot of ways everything that you want in a back. Everything. Now, again, I wish he would have had a few more catches this year, but he had them last year. I would say that the knock against Jeanty, would be probably like the Mountain West aspect of this. You wonder to yourself at times, like, well, are there other guys that could have done that? What would Shedeur have done if he could have played a Mountain West schedule? And I think that can enter your head. Now, is that a knock against Jeanty? No, it's not. I think it's the reality of the levels of college football and maybe the schedule that he played. Okay. I think that his production being compared to Barry Sanders was a bit of a stretch. Barry did it in 11 games, folks. All right. Barry's mark doesn't even encapsulate his season because at the time in 1988, they didn't count bowl game yards, which he had like another 300 yards. His real number is like 28 something, and like that's the real number. So to say like, oh, he's about to break Barry's mark. No, he's not. No, he's not, which is fine. Again, he was tremendous. And that's why I put him at number 2. In a lot of ways, that was unprecedented for me to put a group of 5 player at number 2 on my Heisman ballot. I thought that was an acknowledgement of how great his season was. And again, I think he's got a bright future. My third, I thought was much more difficult. The third slot was really difficult. And there was a lot of players that I considered in that third spot. Shedeur, I considered. Cam Ward, I considered. Dillon Gabriel, I considered. Shedeur Sanders, I considered. And ultimately, I landed on Sanders. And the reason is I just think he had the best quarterback year of anybody. And again, There are a sector of people that just don't want anything to do with the Sanders and with Deion and with Colorado. But if you actually look at Shedeur's season, what you're going to find is that nobody had a better quarterback year than Shedeur Sanders, because no one was under the amount of pressure he was, both from a production standpoint and a pressure standpoint. Here's what I mean by that. If you combine what he meant to the offense and what he was facing from the opposition, no one was close to that. He was actually sacked 38 times. And when you look at Shedeur, like, that's what, fourth in the country? Something along those, fourth most in the country. He led the country in completion percentage at 74%. He was second in passing touchdowns, third in passing yards, and he accounted for 82% of Colorado's offense. That was the best in college football. So not only was he being sacked the fourth most times of anybody in college football, but he had the most production as a percent of his team's offense, 82%. That is a huge number. Just to give you some context, that's just not, good for this year. That's the third best in the last 25 years in college football. So again, best quarterback year, I thought, was Shedeur Sanders. That will play out in the draft. I do believe he's going to be the first quarterback selected in the NFL draft. And it's because he's got this rare combination. And I talked about this when I did their game late in the year against Utah. He's got this rare combination of both surgeon and artist. And that's rare. Normally quarterbacks really lean heavily into one or the other. And I feel like he's got equal parts of both. When he is protected, which was rare, but when he is protected, he is surgical. He has a real command of the game. He's highly intelligent. He's got a command of the timing of the game and the spacing of the route structure. He can throw guys open. He's got a stronger arm than you anticipate, but he also can change pace on the football, layer it, throw it with touch, throw it with accuracy into tight windows. When he's protected, he is surgical. And that's something that'll pay dividends for him moving forward, absolutely. But then he's also got this like artist component to him. And I think that's the one that gets overlooked a little bit. And the reason that they live with 38 sacks and that he lives with holding the football a little bit longer than other quarterbacks is because he can make those plays. He's got like this Fran Tarkington style, almost like a Jake Plummer style ability to evade and get away and yet keep his eyes downfield. And then he's very dangerous when he's outside of the pocket, eyes downfield, trying to throw the ball downfield. So this combination of artist and surgeon is something that I love about his game. It's one of the reasons why I think he had the best quarterback year of anybody in college football. The numbers bear that out. The production bears that out. The pressure bears that out. And that's why he got my vote as number 3 on my ballot for the Heisman Trophy. A lot of people throwing out the old, Buffs bias and everything. I don't believe that's the case. I just ran through my exact thinking, and you can take from that what you will. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.